Munansi. I'd like to welcome our listeners around the world. Welcome our listeners in Uganda, our listeners in on the continent of Africa, Eastern Europe, Asia, North America, wherever you are. Those of you who have made it a tradition to be with us at this time, welcome. We are very, very happy that you spare some time to be with us. Radio Munansi broadcasting live from Hollywood, California. My name is Mathieu Lega, although I'm coming to you from Vancouver in Canada. I'd like you to know that tonight we have Dr. Kiyingi, Dr. Agwe Kiyingi in Australia will be joining us soon. And he has, if you think he has to address today, as well as any other subjects that we might find of interest as we go along. Those who want to call and be part of this program, please call 1-8-534-8273. Again, the number is 818-534-8273. Those who want come by Skype, I think it's radio.munansi1. The address for Skype is radio.munansi1. Listening on your phone is 213-493-0138. Again, the number is 213-493-0138. Once again, welcome to Radio Munansi, the citizens' radio for Ugandans broadcasting from the free world. I think I have Dr. Agwe Kiyingi on the line. Doctor, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Dr. Agwe Kiyingi from Sydney, Australia, please welcome aboard. And I think our listeners would like to hear from you. I'm going to have to give you the microphone.
Thank you very much. And I presume this program is in English, so I'll greet you in English. Good afternoon in Australia and Asia. It is a good morning in Africa and many parts of Europe, and good evening for our colleagues and friends in the States. Today, we'll start off with a very serious issue, and I'd like not only Ugandans, but the whole world to take note, because Mr. Museveni is propelling the country into a very disastrous zone. Yesterday, some of my mobilizers and supporters went to the Uganda Electoral Commission offices in Kampala. They had a letter, a copy of an email duly signed by me, which I had sent to the Uganda Electoral Commission. This letter authorized one of them to pick up nomination forms on my behalf. And as of yesterday, but as you know, Mr. Museveni is a crook. He may have changed the rules overnight. But as of yesterday, that was the only requirement for somebody to go and pick up forms on your behalf. He had to have an introduction note to prove that you have actually sent him to go and pick up nomination forms on your behalf. So we complied with that. There's nothing wrong. There's nothing illegal. You might also all remember that Mr. Museveni picked up nomination forms, not in person, but he sent the Secretary General of NRM to go and pick up nomination forms on his behalf. Now, those who are present, they say that she was not given any problem. She had a note from the president to say she's picking up forms on his behalf. And she picked up nomination forms for dictator Yoweri Museveni. All of a sudden, for Dr. Kiyingi, the rules change. According to the people that I sent, when they said they're coming from Dr. Kiyingi, they were shocked. And they said, "Oh, Dr. Kiyingi?" I said, "Yes." And he has sent us to pick up nomination forms on his behalf. And they asked for their identification, which they did have. They had a passport, and the passport is the ultimate ID in any country worldwide. And then they said, oh, we don't have notification, the letter you are giving us. They said, no, you do have. Check your email. So they did go and check their email, and indeed the email was there, their computers. And then they said, yeah, we see the email here. So my people said, look, print out a copy and endorse it that you have received it, so that, we can take this back to our master that you have duly received the email, which they did. They printed out a copy and signed it that they have received it. And I've got that copy with me. So they told them to wait. And the reason they gave them that we're sorting out your papers. So they waited and waited. After 15, 20 minutes, maybe an hour, half an hour, the whole place was surrounded by military personnel, fully armed, ready for war, ready for battle. And they wanted to arrest my messengers. Now, I hope everybody's listening. They wanted to arrest my messengers. They surrounded the whole place. Fortunately, my messengers had already alerted the press, and there were very many of them there with the cameras and microphones and whatever. So these people said, oh, what's wrong? They were asking the army men, what's the problem? And they said, those people who have come for Kiyingi, we want to arrest them. I said, what for? Well, these are the ones who deal with him, so maybe they can tell us where he is. Now, they know where I am. So the press people started taking pictures and photos and so on, and I think the commandant of that unit backed off and had to get orders, because he must have told his boss that, look, there's a lot of press here. There's nothing that we can do without it getting publicly aired. So the army men just stood by, and they did not arrest my people. After what seemed a long time, the officials of the Electoral Commission came out and told my people that they cannot give them the forms. My people said, why? And said, Dr. Kiyingi does not have an ID card. Now, they did not say Dr. Kiyingi is not a citizen of Uganda. They said Dr. Kiyingi does not have an ID card. As far as I know, there is no rule in the electoral procedures that in order to pick up, not to submit your nomination, not to be approved, but to pick up forms, there is no requirement for anyone to have an ID card. There's a requirement to have identification for the person picking up the forms. Now, that identification is not specified to be a national ID card. And my people had Uganda passports. Others had ID cards, but the chief leader had a passport. And it was not actually for them. They said, it's me without an ID card. Now, you see, these ID cards, and I know that Mr. Museveni is listening, Mr. Kaihura is listening, the Minister of Internal Affairs is listening, the chairman of the Electoral Commission is listening. It is a sham. It is a fraud. We know that these ID cards have been distributed to non-Ugandans, ferried in from neighboring countries. We know that these ID cards have been irregularly printed in mass numbers by the army. And this is why the government took it from a civilian institute to print into the army, because nobody is going to go and audit the army. So we know that the ID cards are the most unfair system Uganda can use for elections. Now, being that as it is, if there was a law that to pick up nomination form you must have an ID, we would have complied with it somehow. But there's no law. Most probably they must have changed it last night because, as you know, when he wants the land law, he calls in MPs on a Saturday evening and they pass a law irregularly. So he could have done it last night knowing that I'm going to hit back today. But as of yesterday, 10 a.m., when my people went to the Electoral Commission, there was no such law. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a very serious matter. It means that the Electoral Commission, during that time when they told my people to wait, were making telephone calls to their masters to get instructions. Effectively, what they've done, or what they did yesterday, is to tell me and the rest of Ugandans that Dr. Kiyingi cannot stand, or he's barred from standing for presidency next year. In their usual fashion, they were cowards because they did not say that to me directly. They should have said that, written a letter and say, look, you are not allowed to stand for the presidential post in this country. However, they used a roundabout way because if I don't fill out a nomination form, it means then I cannot be considered. So, indirectly, they have actually stopped me, they have barred me from standing for presidency in Uganda. They made a lot of noise about qualifications, about issues that need to be fulfilled by a presidential candidate. And I am well aware of all this. Now, the time for the Electoral Commission to check on these items is not when somebody is picking up the nomination forms. You see, when you apply to Boston University or Harvard University, nobody asks you for those qualifications before they give you the application form. In fact, these days, in the digital world, you can sit in Ubuntu and download the application form for Harvard University. They've never seen you. You download the application form, you fill it out, and when you're filling out, this is the time for you to fulfill all the requirements that Harvard University wants. Because they would have a list. Do you have a primary certificate? This, are you mentally disturbed? Do you have enough money to pay? So you tick all those, put them on the application form, and then they can consider whether they can allow you or not, according to what you have filled out on the application form. It's not before. Now, Uganda, it appears the rules are different, especially when it comes to Dr. Kiyingi. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a very serious matter. It puts the whole process of elections and the Electoral Commission in jeopardy. And I've been telling you all along that Museveni has not changed. Museveni is the old Museveni that we know. And I want to appeal to my colleagues in the opposition, because many have been trying to select their primary candidates, and I think next week they're going to meet to choose the single candidate. In my view, this appears to be a waste of time. Museveni and the Electoral Commission, as of yesterday at 10:30 a.m., when they refused to give me application forms or nomination forms, they've declared that the elections will be null and void. And I want to declare to all of you, those of you who support democracy, those of you who support freedom, those of you who want Uganda to settle, Uganda to progress, that as of yesterday at 10:30 a.m., when they refused to give us nomination forms for no legitimate reason, they've nullified the elections next year. And if we don't get those nomination forms, then myself, my supporters, and fellow Ugandans who believe in democracy, we shall declare that the elections next year are null and void. Now, if the elections are null and void, and the president has abrogated the constitution, and the electoral commission is a sham, then the Ugandans are empowered by the same constitution that Dictator Museveni signed to use whatever means is available to effect a change of government. You can now ask questions. Hello?
Yeah, hello, Dr. Kiyingi, thank you very much. And I don't know if you can hear me very well.
Yes, I can hear you very well.
Okay. Thank you very much for that information. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to Radio Munansi, the Citizens Radio coming to you from the free world. You just had Dr. Kiyingi in his narrative about the situation in Uganda and how he refused to have his people pick up nomination forms for the coming 2016 presidential election. And I'm pretty sure many of you who have his narrative may have a few or many questions to Dr. Kiyingi. Please feel free to call. The number to call is 818-534-8273. 818-534-8273. And some of you may want to come by Skype. It is radio.Munansi1. Radio.Munansi1. Once again, this is Radio Munansi, Uganda Citizen Radio coming to you from the world. My name is Materi. Now, Dr. Kiyingi, before I receive any calls from our listeners, I'd like to ask you myself. Now that it is formal, they have declared you personnel and hunter in participating in the forthcoming elections. I believe they have left you no other option but being excluded and to seek other means. What do you want the world to know about your intentions to be part and part of the Uganda, democratic struggle? Now that you've been declared personnel and granta, by all means, that's what it means. What should the rest of the world expect from you, as far as your determination or future plan to be part and parcel of the struggle to free democracy of Uganda? And while he answers, so I'd like to hear many of you who are listening tonight to be able to prepare to ask the start with many questions you want.
Yes, hello? Hello?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes, that's what I've just said. There will be more pronouncements being made, but this is not the end. In many ways, actually, this is the beginning for the real struggle to liberate our country. And more details and more options are going to be aired. But as of now, I think Ugandans should not fool themselves that there's going to be a fair and free election in Uganda. There will not be. Next question.
Again, ladies and gentlemen, if you've been listening to this is Radio Munansi, Citizens Radio coming to you from the free world. My name is Materi, and we are hosting Dr. Kiyingi, Australian-based cardiologist, who have declared his intention to run for president for the coming election 2016. If you have a question, please, I'd like to hear some phone ringing to get your opinion, your questions when the doctor is here to answer your question. If If you have questions, please feel free to do so. The number is 818-524-8223. Those who want to ask via Skype, please, the address is radio.munansi1, radio.munansi1. Well, while we wait for our listeners to call in, those who show the interest to do so anyway, Dr. Albertine, recently there has been a recruitment of what has been described as militias. Estimated at 40,000 in number. These are supposedly people who they are called crime preventers, and were some of the generals, whatever General Kapozo Mutaliano with us is rank, declared in broad daylight that the purpose for this recruitment is to make sure that President Museveni wins the coming election. We'd like to hear your take on this issue. I know you may have said something about it. Now that you have been declared persona non grata, they have refused to give you the nomination form, I am pretty sure this fight plays right in the same narrative about what's going on in the country. What do you think? What is your take about this recruitment of militias and Kapozo Mutale's declaration that they are recruited to make sure that Museveni wins the election come 2016?
Yes. Look, again, there's nothing new. Only that this time he's a bit more bold to do it. But he's been using these tactics all along. These vigilantes are there to threaten the people. These vigilantes are there to make sure that they can rig elections. These vigilantes are there to make sure they can either beat or steal votes. And therefore, Ugandans must be aware that he's just upscaling his system, but he's been there all along. Now, of course, it's totally irregular. If they can do that for the NRM, other parties should do it for themselves. But as you know, another party has tried to do the same thing, and things have not gone very well. They've already warning them, and they are threatening to arrest them. But when somebody said he's doing it for NRM, there was no threat. So this one, the Ugandan must be prepared. But as of now, and this is really a right by natural justice, that people should be prepared to defend themselves by whatever means. This is not calling for havoc or whatever, but people should be prepared that when you are attacked, which most probably you will be by these vigilantes, you should use whatever means you have to defend yourself. Not only that, I think there is now a legitimate reason for other people to start organizing themselves in defense groups, just in case we are attacked or just in case you are attacked. And I know that Mr. Kayihura is going to run around and say you are training people to do this, but you are training people to harm the population. Now, who is going to protect the population? Next question.
Yeah. Well, this week, as I wait, again, I'd like to call upon our listeners, please, those who are interested in asking Dr. Kiyingi questions, please do so. I'm not in the studio, but I think whoever in the studio can be even able to read your commentaries and notes on Facebook, Twitter. Please approach or rather contact the studio. We will be more than glad to respond to your inquiries or statements or commentaries. But for now, we're more interested to hear your live voice asking Dr. Kiyingi questions about his, what he has just, shared with us on this video. Once again, if you're just joining us, this is Radio Munansi, Uganda Citizens Radio, coming to you from the free world. My name is Mr. Doctor, This week, the FDC, political party, went through a process which one would call a democratic process in choosing their flag bearer. And Dr. Peter Besigye came out the winner over Mugisha Munansi. And as we know, there were two contestants, unlike NRM where there is a single candidate. But according to people's commentaries that I have had, at least had a chance to read, there's I don't know how to describe it, but we have all these candidates coming from none other than Western region. We have Dr. Besigye, we have Mugisha Muntu, we have Amama Mbalazi, and then we have Museveni. And for all practical purposes, those are the major candidates. They are all coming from Western region. And here we were, the candidate from Central, you've been denied a chance to even your representative nomination. What can be talking about the fact that all the players right now are coming from only one region? We don't see Westerners, we don't see Northerners, we don't see anyone else but this gentleman. What can be talking about this, if we can be talking about it?
Look, I've been asked this question before. I do not think that we should regionalize the elections or the candidates. If we can get 10 candidates from the West and they are legitimate and they are Ugandans, so be it. I don't have a problem with that. My problem is with the Electoral Commission being unfair when other people try to stand. So I don't think we should put an emphasis that 10 people or 5 people are coming from the West. Yeah, so what? If they have the right people, if they have the qualified people, let them put their 100. But at the same time, and this is my problem, at the same times, if there are 20 people from Busoga, if there are 30 people from Acholi, if there are 100 people from Uganda, they should all be accorded the same privileges. And this is where the Electoral Commission fails. So it's not where somebody comes from. No. It is how the Electoral Commission decides who is fit to stand.
Well, your point is very well taken, except that it has already been said that the Electoral Commission is a mouthpiece of Yoweri Kaguta Museveni. And it has already been established that you are the prime example. You just shared with us the issues for your people to pick up any nomination. Sure, I am told there are 24 candidates who are willing to run for the president in Uganda. I have yet to understand their origins and so on and so forth. But we haven't seen a number of people from the east, neither have we seen many from the north, although they talk of a consolidated opposition to face Museveni when all these different opposition groups can come together. Maybe for the sake of discussion today, are you willing to join in the so-called consolidated or united opposition front against Kaguta Museveni? In other words, can you work with either Besigye, Amama Mbalazi, and all bunch who intend to unite to form a united front against Kaguta Museveni? Are you interested at all to do so?
Look, when you're fighting a dictator like Museveni, unity is always a very important thing. Now, it depends on the details. It depends what's actually under the surface. And one has got to scrutinize what is under the surface, what are the terms and the conditions, whom are you joining with? Are you joining with the Museveni man in disguise? Are you joining with a co-conspirator with Museveni? Are you joining a co-murderer and a co-terrorist with Museveni under the guise of opposition? So one has got to look into all that. And you cannot just give a blunt answer, no, I will not deal with this one, no, I'm not. It has to be considered individually on the other candidates, and also on the terms and conditions and what is entailed in that coalition.
Okay. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, we are waiting to hear from you. Where are you, our listeners? Where are your voices? This is Radio Munansi coming to you from the free world. You should be able, at least for those people in the diaspora, those people who can speak out their mind, you should be able to call the studio. The number is 818-534-8273. 818-534-8273. Or by Skype, it should be radio.munansi1. Radio.munansi1. So while we are waiting for whoever will be interested to call, I'm here to hear any single call. Let me change the subject a little bit. This week, the terrorists in Somalia, they attacked the Ugandan man base in Somalia and took a number of Ugandan soldiers and Somalis and other people who were stationed there. The initial reports from different media platforms, they were putting the casualties, the dead at 50 and injured 50. We are told there are about 101 Ugandans stationed in that post. It took the Ugandan government nearly 2 days to accept that such an incident took place, and even when they did, they to say 12 people were in Somalia. I would like to know if you have anything to say about this scenario where Ugandans are bringing home coffins from Somalia, where reportedly dictator Museveni is trying to clean up Somalia when in his home base people are languishing in jail and freedom of the people have already been taken away from them. What is your take on this particular issue?
This is a very unfortunate situation, and first and foremost, I'd like to pass on my condolences to the families, relatives of the bereaved, those who died in Somalia. In the first place, it should have never happened. Well, now they're stuck in Somalia, but if it had been handled differently, maybe no Ugandan soldier would be in Somalia in the first place. But they're already there, and we have to face the situation squarely. The issue is, how has the government handled this? How does the government treat our people, Ugandans, who are sent, who are ordered to go to Somalia? Are they paid on time? No. Are they paid what the international community actually gives Uganda to support the soldiers? Now, the last time I got a figure, and this is not substantiated, so if anybody has got a proper figure, you can tell me, that apparently the Uganda government is paid about $2,000 at least for each soldier a month. From what we know, these soldiers are paid probably about $500 out of that, and even that does not come on time. It is usually delayed. Now, you see, Museveni has got a lot to explain. Where does this money go? 2, is there provision to look after the relatives? Which I'm sure there must have been. If there was, are the relatives looked after when a calamity like this strikes our gallant Ugandans? So, the bottom line is that Museveni is a thief, Museveni is a traitor, Museveni is just using these boys and girls of the army for his own gratification and to look big. They send them to the front line, but they don't look after them. They send them to the front line, but they're not paid on time. They send them to the front line, but the relatives are not looked after. When they die, because this was a very big one, they could not hide it. They've had to acknowledge, and they've put out a red carpet for the coffins. Well, we want them back alive. We don't want coffins. And even if they come back in coffins, we want the families looked after properly. Is the government doing this? Now, fellow Ugandans, this is the time to rectify these situations. And even those people in the army, you should start thinking, are you on the right path? Are you prepared to die like that? Are you prepared to have your relatives, abandoned? If not, then it's time to join the bandwagon for change in Uganda. And I'd like you to visit www.ugandafdo.com. Next question.
Well, I'm still calling upon our listeners around the world and those who are interested, who have questions to ask Dr. Agustin. Moderator in the studio in California, you can help me. If you hear a light signal when I'm calling, let me know. Do we have anyone calling?
Not yet.
Okay, no problem. Is another call? Yourself?
No.
Okay. In any case, still on that issue of all the Ugandans who have died in Somalia, I also want to add my voice to yours in sending condolences to the families, friends, and loved ones for those who lost these, innocent men and women, I hope, and that their deaths can't go in vain. On that particular issue, we have people, Ugandans dying in southern Sudan. We now have Ugandans die in Somalia. We have Ugandans die in Central African Republic. We have Ugandans who are spread around the world, around Africa, under the pretext of regional security. I believe, for one, have regional security unless you absolutely can prove to stand. You can't have two principles. You have either principle of regional security, when you believe in it, you practice it. You can't be fighting for democracy in Somalia when you are trampling it back home in your own, territory. Ugandans, I think, as you say, Ugandans need to wake up and understand that this man is using them, is putting at risk their children to go and fight proxy wars for which they have no benefit. For the record, Uganda has never had any problems prior to Museveni coming in power, any problems of terrorists attacking our country, bombing innocent civilians, but for Museveni to interfere in our affairs of other countries, that's where we are right now. And I think Uganda needs to take more. Doctor, don't you like to test?
Yes, go on, I'm hearing.
A moderator, I cannot hear. I don't know whether we have an interruption or technical problem with once again, but I cannot hear.
No, we still
Can you hear me?
I can hear both of you.
Hello?
Mr. Lubega, are you there?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Hello?
Yeah, Mr.
Yeah,
Lubega,
hello. I can hear you now.
Okay, you can hear me. Well, let me ask, is there anyone out there listening who would like to ask a question? We have Dr. Agustin on the line from Sydney, Australia. You heard what he just said. Just to recap, they refused to have his people pick up the nomination forms from the Uganda Electoral Commission, in essentially blocking him out to part of participation in the upcoming presidential elections of 2016. What is your question? What do you think about that? Is it fair? Is it legitimate? Is it legal? We'd like to hear your opinion, ladies and gentlemen, as we have Dr. Agustin on the line. I haven't had a single question being asked here. I don't know whether today people forgot that this program is going to be airing, or whether whoever is listening today has guts enough, if you need guts, to ask a question. But I feel very desperate when I call upon all of you to have your views on it. Raise your voice, because What we are fighting is to give you free space, free voice. You can say that we think. So I'd like to hear someone ask a question about what Dr. Agwiti just told us.
There is a question that has been submitted via Facebook. It reads as
Okay.
follows, that can Dr. Kiyingi be specific on his next move since he has been refused to register?
Okay, that's very good. From the studio, I understand someone asked a question. I don't know if Dr. Yohai is being waited. They say, can you be more specific as to what is your next move since you have been refused to, pick up nomination in the register to become a contender in the 2016 presidential election?
Well, I can be very specific in telling you that if Mr. Museveni, the Electoral Commission, and Kaihura thought if they refuse me the nomination form, that's the end of Dr. Kiyingi, they are dreaming. This is only the beginning. And I can be very specific of that. This is really the real beginning for the struggle to change our country. Next question.
Another question that has been submitted is as follows, that when are you planning to get the ID? That way they can issue the nomination forms.
No, look, even if I had the ID with me here, they would not give me the nomination forms. I think you really misunderstand Mr. Museveni's ways. It's not the ID. There is no law. And even in the EC, they don't have that requirement that for me to get the nomination form, I must have an ID. It's not there. Now, I'd like to remind all of you that only 2 weeks ago, one of the officials from the EC, the Electoral Commission, is on a record on saying publicly that the ID is not a prerequisite to voting in absolute terms. That if somebody went to the polling station, now this is not getting a nomination form, this is going to vote. That if somebody went to the voting station without an ID, but it could be proved by the people around that he's actually Ugandan and registered, he would be allowed to vote. Now, this is an official from the Electoral Commission. Now, you see, these people are playing on our minds. So on one side, you say that, but when the Dr. Kiyingi wants to have a nomination form, you demand that he must have an ID. This is all rubbish.
Dr. Kiyingi, this is Mathieu Vega once again. I would like to play a devil's advocate. It is on record by at least Museveni's intentions. You were already declared a terrorist or a terrorist. Isn't it naive of you to have expected to be given nomination forms when in fact, according to Kabuta Museveni, supposed to be rounded up and put in jail, tried for supporting terrorism in Uganda?
Well, again, there is no law and there is no statute under the Electoral Commission that says that if there is an allegation, and mark my words, an allegation against anyone, he cannot be given nomination forms. What I know of the Ugandan law is that if you are convicted, if you have been convicted, then yes, you cannot stand. But there's no law saying that if they've alleged something, you cannot be given nomination forms. Next question.
I don't know if the moderator has any other written questions to the studio, because I'm not in the studio. If we have any questions, can you please read them to us?
Yeah, the listener is still typing. I'm still waiting on him to submit that question. You may continue, Mr. Material, if you can.
Hello?
Hello, I can't hear you. I couldn't hear him.
Hello?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. Well, there's no question, you say?
Yeah,
Okay.
The question is, do you have a time limit when you may or you may not to pick up the forms? That's another question that has been submitted.
Can you repeat the question?
The question is that do you have a time limit that you may decide to go pick up the forms to register? Or you may not at all?
Hello?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Very faintly. Before I could hear you, now I can't hear you. What was the question?
The question was, the listener is asking that do you have a deadline when you'll be picking up the forms, or you may not do it at all?
Well, it's been very clear that they've refused to give me forms. We'll see what happens in the next... I don't think they're going to change their mind. And even if I fronted up today with an ID card, I'm sure they'll find another reason. So it looks like picking up forms or Dr. Kiyingi standing for the presidency as of today has been blocked. Next question.
Moderator, I'm beginning to lose speaking. I can't hear very well. In fact, I did not hear the answer to the question. I hope everybody else did hear the question, the answer, but I couldn't. Can you hear me very well, please?
Yeah, your line is a little bit fading.
Yes,
Okay, caller, I can hear you. Go ahead and ask your question. The doctor is listening.
Yes, good morning, everyone, and good afternoon, everybody. Dear listeners, yeah, my name's Numetaumla. I just want to find out from doctor that if he has, if at all he has read about the regulations and the rules of TDA, what is his view with the TDA? Since he's saying that they have refused him to pick a registration form for his nominations. And what is the safety of his people who went to take? Because according to the news I read, they are trying to arrest them. Are they going to follow them up? Or that's my question, please.
Doctor, did you hear the question?
Well, yeah, part of it. Yeah, I've already answered that question about the coalition attempts to choose a single candidate. It will depend how the proceedings are, what are the terms and conditions, who is chosen, has he got the right credentials, is he with the people, or is he just a front for Yoweri Kaguta Museveni to sabotage the elections? So there are a lot of questions which need to be answered, and we are looking at this very seriously. Secondly, as far as my people are concerned, yes, I fear for my people, and I've alerted as many people and organizations as possible to the possibility that my people are being harassed again. Well, they have always been harassed, but this one being harassed because they went to pick up nomination forms. And if Mr. Museveni and Kaihura go ahead and make the mistake of harassing and arresting them, then in many ways they would have declared war on the people. And in that case, then the people have got a right to defend themselves.
Mr. Mathieu, are you there?
Yes, I am. And I'd first like to thank those individuals who have been able to come up front and at least ask a question, because we've been waiting for them. And I'm also calling upon others who have interest or have questions to please come forward, make use of this time when we have Dr. Kiyingi on the line. If you're just joining us, this is Radio Munansi, Citizens Radio, coming to you from the free world. My name is Rachel Rega. We have Dr. Kiyingi, Australian-based cardiologist, with us, a presidential hopeful, although he has been declared a personnel non-grant, at least they don't allow him to participate in Uganda's politics today. So I'm calling upon you, ladies and gentlemen, to, if you have something to ask, please ask, so that, one moment.
Mr. Marialuga, do you have any other question?
Okay, Okay. Do we have any other person asking a question?
No, no one is typing. I'm looking both the Skype and the Facebook.
Okay. Okay. Maybe, Doctor, I don't think we have anyone else interested in asking you a question. I don't know whether to release you to go or if you have something you want to add. What do you want to leave our listeners with tonight?
Okay.
To what said with
just
us.
one piece of advice or one concluding sentence.
I got
Don't
a
be scared.
Doctor, I got
Don't
a call.
give up.
Doctor, I got a call. Let's take this call. Doctor,
Hello?
let's take this call. I got a call.
Okay, good.
Caller, you on air? Go ahead. Can you try to speak up, please?
Good evening.
Good evening, sir. Where are you calling
How
from?
are you, sir? Thank you for your program. I have a question.
Yes, go ahead. Can you please let us know who you are and where you're calling from?
Kachuma calling from Boston.
Okay.
I have a question brought directly for Dr. Kiyingi. I remember
Go ahead.
back I did ask him about the nomination forms. He told me that he was aware that everything was in the right position or in the right place. But right now he's telling us that he was refused to pick the nomination forms. For us as his supporters, we are much aware to support him in each and everything. But according to the way I'm hearing him talking, he looks like he's now a coward because you cannot just give in. As a presidency, you had everything, plan A, plan B, and everything. Now, what was your plan B? Because this now was failed, as you said, that you were denied the access of picking the form. So, what is your way forward?
Thank you very much, but I think you missed that the first part of my talk. And I've already answered your question. I've already said categorically that if Dictator Museveni and the terrorist Kaihura think that this is the end of Dr. Kiyingi because they have refused me nomination forms, they are totally wrong. This is actually the beginning, the real beginning of the struggle to liberate our country. So my friend, my supporter, fellow Ugandan, this is the beginning now, the real beginning for the real struggle. So we are not giving up. Nobody is a coward here. And in fact, this is a push for us to make sure that we save Uganda.
Caller, thank you very much for your question. Doctor, I have someone sent me a question here to ask you, however theoretical it is. The question, suppose given a flawed electoral commission notwithstanding, what if Saturday is the president of
no, you are cutting off. Can you repeat the question?
Mr. Matthew Olvega, are you there? Mr. Matthew Olvega, are you there? I think we lost him.
Can you ask the question direct from the studio with the people here?
Yeah, I'm trying to. Let me read this one. I can't understand one thing. Mr. Kiyingi knows every the charges that had been levied against him. Did he expect anything better than that? That's what the listeners just wrote.
Well, not really, but at the same time, we should not be threatened so that because they put their fake charges, I should not go for the nomination forms. In many ways, Dictator Museveni has just, shot himself in the foot. It shows clearly that he's a coward. it shows clearly that everything he's been doing is just to block Dr. Kiyingi from standing for presidency because he knows I'll beat him. And therefore, since I've not been threatened by the false charges or rumors of charges, now he's gone a step further and block me from getting the forms. And I've just answered that with the fellow listeners that if he thinks this is the end of the struggle, he's totally wrong. This is actually the beginning now of the real struggle.
Mr. Matthew Olivega, what was your question? Mr. Matthew Olivega, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. I was actually, it wasn't mine, but I was trying to read a question. Someone sent it to me here instead of sending it to the studio. The question was, what if any of the contestants win other than Yoweri Kaguta Museveni? What if Amama Mbabazi win? Will Dr. Kiyingi continue with his struggle? That's the question.
Oh yes. This I've just answered that the struggle actually now is just beginning. So if they thought this is going to discourage me, no. The real struggle started yesterday at 10:30 a.m. And we're not going to give up until we liberate the country.
Mr. Matthew Olivega, did you hear the answer?
No, I did not have so good hearing.
Yeah,
Can you repeat the answer for me, please? At least so I can understand.
Yeah, doctors say that the real struggle started yesterday at 10 a.m. So this is just a beginning; it's not the end. So whoever asked the question shouldn't worry.
Okay. All right, thank you very much. Now, I don't have any questions from my end. I don't know if you have questions in the studio or on Facebook or in Twitter. I don't know whether you have any questions here in the studio, but if you don't, I feel like we're leaving Dr. Kiyingi for him to go unless he have closing remarks.
No. I thank you for this time, and I want again to reassure our listeners and all Ugandans that the struggle is only just beginning. God bless you all.